Hi, my name is Beth Lamy. Welcome to Theater Talk, a monthly show where we highlight local theaters and encourage you all to support the arts. Today, we are here with East Haddam Stage Company, and I have Candy Carl, one of the founders and artistic director, and Josiah Rowe, who is playing Dr. Watson in their upcoming show, What About Watson? So thank you for being here today. So Candy,
Yes.
You, again, aren't just the artistic director, but you're also one of the founders.
Yes. In 2002, my husband and I, Casey, come from a long line of theater, and we decided that what we wanted to do was focus on minimal set, maximum connection, non-musical, original works, poetry, and also using historical topics, all those different things. And we co-founded it together, and then it took off, and he had his one-man shows that he's doing. And so I became the producing artistic director, where I chose the shows, cast the shows, and directed most of them, but I do reach out and have Connecticut talent specifically. That's what I really love to focus on. Connecticut has so many wonderful community theaters, which is great. And then we've got the big ones that always go to New York City to cast. And then where's that in between? Where's the people who are here in Connecticut that want to do serious work? Serious in comedy, serious in touring, really, really great stuff. And so that's the niche that we fill. And we've been blessed through all of our hard work to get a number of different locations and venues. We don't have our own stage, but we make a stage out of multiple different kinds of venues. And that's one of the things that we do at Gillette Castle State Park.
So yeah, how did that come about? Did they reach out to you? Did you reach out to them?
No. You know, those of us in the creative arts, we just go after it sometimes. So I had to learn how to speak park because it is a state park. The DEEP runs it. And there was a site supervisor at that time. And I went to them and I said, William Gillette was one of the most famous Victorian rock star Brad Pitt actors, and there's no theater on your grounds. And yet so many state parks and even national parks have Shakespeare, they have, you know, concerts, they have orchestra. And I said, here's a guy who we only have this incredible place because he was an actor, playwright. Can I do some theater here? And they said, as long as it doesn't cost us anything, sure. And so, long story short, we started in the grass, running around a building, and now we have not only the building itself, but we also have a stage and tiered seating and awnings, and it's a real wonderful partnership with the current site supervisor and the Friends of Gillette Castle State Park, the not-for-profit volunteer arm, and we all work together to bring interpretive things to the castle.
Are there any specific things you have to be careful of? I mean, it is a historic house when you're inside the house.
Yeah. Well, we started on the outdoor. We weren't allowed to go inside. That was not part of what we were allowed to do. It was always something I wanted to do. It's always something I've been trying to do. But yes, it's a historic house, but unlike historical house museums that have a lot of things that are movable, 9 out of 10 things in that place are affixed to the wall. So it's not a lot of things to be wary of or that have to be moved. And so I kept reaching out to the Friends and saying, we could do something inside if you want to do it. And so 2 years ago, we did William and James, about William Gillette and Eugene O'Neill's dad, James, who was an actor, famous at the time in the 1890s, meeting at the Players Club in New York City on the night that William Gillette became Sherlock Holmes for the first time. It was written by Connecticut playwright Gina Tracy, and it went so well. Everyone was nervous, of course, because I wanted to respect the historic site. But it went so well that this last April, May, we just passed, we did the one-man show on William Gillette's gentleman valet, Yukitaka Osaki, whose house is down by the Haddam Chester Ferry. So we are looking at our 16th summer season of outdoor theater, and we've had 2 productions inside that have gone extremely well. So we're very, very pleased with our partnership with Gillette Castle, the state, DEP, and the Friends of Gillette.
So when you have your outside performances, is it a covered area, or what about the weather?
Yes.
Summer thunderstorms, summer rain?
Well, we initially used to go, we do 6 weekends, and we initially went July into August. And then we stopped having normal summers and started having 100-degree summers. And I don't let my actors out on the stage if it's 90 degrees or more. We have an awning over the stage now, which is great. We're going to have new awnings that are going to go over the seating that is there. But a lot of people bring their lawn chairs, and we've got umbrellas and parasols. And so it's a combination of people who are really fans of the East Haddam Stage Company, people who just happen to be at the park that day, and also people who, didn't get a ticket to go in to tour the house, but they've made the trip. As Josiah can tell you, he's based in North Haven. It's not the easiest place to get to, but well worth the trip.
And am I incorrect? The performances are free.
Correct. They are sponsored, and they're totally free to the public. And unless there's water coming out of the sky at showtime, the shows go on.
Okay. So we talked about Gillette Castle State Park. What other performance venues do you use for your shows?
Well, for 6 years now, we have been the go-to holiday show at the Wadsworth Mansion in Middletown, Connecticut. We've had the most incredible Scrooge ever on the planet, John Swanson, and it was put out to bid. They do events there, and they do weddings and receptions and all kinds of corporate things, but they wanted to do something in-house, and they were so good, Megan Bush and her team, they were so good about realizing, well, they need to go out to a theater company that knows how to do it. And because I had the background in creating first-person interpretive programs for living history sites, plus the theater background, plus my knowledge of history, they went, well, let's give you a try. And so the novelty of my plan was that to use the entire place, that we would have each room be a different part of the story, and the audience gets up and follows Scrooge everywhere he goes. And I hear there are other people who are now doing that model.
Really?
So I've heard. So yes, it's a novel way of doing it. It has been sold out every time before we even open the show. So that's just wonderful. We also, last year, a totally different script, we're asked to do a Christmas Carol in the historic space of the reading room at Russell Library, also in Middletown. Totally different venue, totally different feel and look. And that one has all of the actors and all the characters coming out from the stacks around the audience and up on the balconies and all that kind of thing. So, and it's great because it's a piece of literature. You know, really great theater has come from really great literature. And Dickens has got the corner on the holidays. And to have these actors coming out of stacks of books sharing the story of Scrooge and all of that is just really wonderful, and they've asked us back. So those are other venues that we do, and we also tour as well. So,
is it difficult to find shows to fit into the venues? Because I see that you are also a playwright and have written some shows.
Well, that's the interesting thing. I have written some that I wouldn't really call myself a playwright. I have written some because I know how it is and what it is to storytell from a living history perspective. And that has put me in good stead when I have to adapt other people's works, because 9 out of 10 things are not the short 30-minute shows that we need at Gillette Castle. The outdoor stage, we've used Sherlock Holmes plays that were radio plays because they're short and 30 minutes, and they were broadcast by Orson Welles and all these wonderful talent in early radio days. So we've done that. We've done a lot of those kinds of things. But what I've done with this one is I'm so excited It's actually Watson, the Final Problem, which is a play, a full act, 2-act, one-man play by a couple of BBC actors and playwrights, Tim Tools and Mr. Matheson. And I have taken their multi-big work, as William Gillette did, and adapted it down to what we needed, kind of filtered it down to what we needed for a 30-minute show. Mm-hmm. So that's my wheelhouse. That I love, and I guess you would call that an editing and adapting more than playwriting.
Okay.
Because other people are much better playwrights than I am. But yeah, I really love that. I see it as a partnership. And they don't know about it yet. Because up until last Monday, I didn't know whether I'd have an actor.
So, Josiah, is this your first time performing with the East Haddam Stage Company?
Yes, I'm very happy to have fallen into this. I just happened to see a
desperate call.
Yes, on the Connecticut Paid Theater
Network
Facebook page, I believe it was, saying, "We are at the desperation stage." I don't know how I missed your first earlier auditions, but saying that you were looking for someone to play Watson.
Where's my Watson?
Yes.
Watson, where are you?
Watson, come here. I want you.
And for people that didn't know, this is a one-man show. So for very important role that you have.
Yes. Yes, which is why it takes a lot. And that's the thing. It's like chicken and the egg. You have this idea and you want to do that. And it's okay. Unlike the big bricks and mortar theaters that have to decide months and months and months in advance, and they have dedicated marketing departments and casting directors and all this, I've got the idea, I've got the thing I want to do, but I can't do it if I don't find the team to do it. And which comes first? Mm-hmm. And so, okay, I've got the thing. Now I need to find someone to fit into it. And I had an actor, and he decided to pass. And then I had another actor, and he decided to pass, because it is a one-man show. You are out there by yourself, and you have to have the right kind of tenacity for that. And, kudos to them for realizing they wouldn't have been a good fit. But then I'm desperate now. So I'm like, please, I'm desperate. And sure enough, Josiah called, and I had a conversation with him, and the English accent, and are you aware of the Sherlockian thing? And I mean, there's a lot to it.
Have you done a one-man show before?
I have not done a one-man show before. The closest, I think, I have, years ago, I did the 39 Steps. I don't know if you know the adaptation, the four-person adaptation that you have four people playing 25 or so different roles, and so that is a similar sort of energy, needing to constantly to carry the whole of the show. So I did that. That was the closest thing I've had to a one-man show before. I'm excited about this. A little bit scared.
So, without giving too much away about the show, can you just tell us a little bit about Watson?
Sure. It is mostly, as Candy said, it's the story of the final problem. It's what Watson believes to be the story of Sherlock Holmes's last adventure. It was written when Conan Doyle was sick and tired of writing about Sherlock Holmes. He wanted to do other things, and everybody kept asking more. I want more another Sherlock Holmes story, and he was so tired of Sherlock Holmes. I'm going to kill him off. And so this story was written as Sherlock Holmes's last adventure. So this story is Watson telling what happened, how his last adventure with Sherlock Holmes. It got a little bit from some other stories. There's a bit from Study in Scarlet, the first Sherlock Holmes story, where you see a little bit of how Holmes met Watson, Watson met Holmes, and the larger piece that Candy has adapted this from had more of sort of the story of their relationship and other bits from other adventures. But this is really telling. It's really the final problem.
How did Watson feel about leading up to meeting Holmes? The way that he explored his relationship with Holmes, what it meant to him, and all of that dynamic. And then he gets to the point where we see that he writes these stories and all of that, as opposed to him talking to the audience as, let me tell you this story, this case story. This is the overall view of Watson's experience with him, as well as we can do in 30 minutes.
So Watson is finally getting his story told,
Yes,
instead of being the sidekick or the other.
It is still, he's telling the story about his relationship with Holmes. And since the Conan Doyle stories are generally first person from the point of view of Watson, most of the text is from the Conan Doyle original, but there are some bits that are added in that are a little bit more revelatory of what was Watson thinking, and it's a little bit more internal than the Conan Doyle stories are adventures. They're this is what we discovered next, and we had no idea that this was going to happen. And then this has a little bit more of the what it made Watson feel, and in particular, this story where Holmes knows in the story that there is a very good likelihood that he is going to die, and Watson does not know that, and so sort of seeing that that discovery is going to be an interesting.
It is quite the challenge to do something short, but with all these big themes in it. And some people come to Gillette Castle and they know about Sherlock Holmes. Some come and they don't. And some will know Watson and some will have no clue. So it's really important that, to me as a director for this particular piece, is we see the humanization of Watson. And like you said, how he's not just the sidekick. He's not just the voice of, he has his own feelings and things. I don't know if you have, I think I sent you a picture of Josiah on stage in rehearsal, the bare bones of it. But yes, you're out there by yourself. And it takes a great deal of chutzpah to grab that and run with it. And I will say, we've only been in rehearsal 4 or 5 days, as if. And boy, am I really happy that the other 2 people turned it down. I know that's such a rude thing to say, but the reality is that sometimes in theater, especially live theater, sometimes it's meant to be that you're going to fall into something, and the answer will come to your sleepless nights and nightmare scenarios. And Josiah reached out, and here he is, and I'm very proud of the work he's done already.
I'm excited about this, and my wife in particular is a Holmes aficionado, and so I have a very high standard to meet. She worships at the altar of Jeremy Brett, and I will say I am doing this in the shadow of Gillette Castle, even though, as Watson is telling the story, there are bits where I have to become Holmes and telling, but it's Holmes as relayed through Watson. I am glad that I am not playing Sherlock Holmes for 30 minutes, and I only have to do a little bit of that. It would be a little bit too intimidating to try to do that there.
At the home of the quintessential Sherlock Holmes.
Of the man who gave us so much of what we think of in Sherlock Holmes comes from William Gillette, from the meerschaum pipe, the deerstalker hat, the look of Holmes,
and the massive eyeglass, and all those, because they were theatrical. And
Right.
and those are the things that are quintessential Sherlock Holmes in every image you find, and yet very few people realize that those are all because of William Gillette.
So as an actor, just let me ask you a few more questions. Do you have a favorite role that you've played?
Oh, I think my favorite role was when I played Atticus Finch at the Thomaston Opera House. This is about 10 years ago. Well, maybe nine years ago. It was one of the last performances of the old adaptation of To Kill a Mockingbird before the recent one that was on Broadway, and they withdrew the rights to the old Christopher Sergel script because there was the new one by A Few Good Men, and
The West Wing.
The West Wing, yes. And,
We'll come up with his name.
yes. Anyway, there's a new adaptation, and the French withdrew the rights to this old Christopher Sergel adaptation, but that was probably the role that was dearest to my heart, because being able to tell that story, I think that's one of the quintessential American stories.
And important, yeah.
And being able to play that role was very important to me.
Do you have a role that you'd still want to play in the future? A role that you're hoping for? A dream role?
Oh, I don't know. There's not there are shows that I'd like to do. I'd like to get back to doing some more Shakespeare. I did 5 or 6 years ago. I was Claudius in Hamlet on the Guilford Green. I'd like to get back to do some more of that.
Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add, either one of you?
Well, I'm just really pleased that you, yourself, and Theater Talk, Beth, have wanted to shine a light on theater going on in Connecticut. That isn't just the big, I call them the big five, because there's a lot of talent in the state.
So much.
And there's so much creativity, and there's so many stories to tell. Things that are already established, things that we don't even know about yet. They're all here, and the theater companies in the state that are bringing them to light are, warming my heart. And it's so nice that there's a new show that wants to
Such a great
spotlight
segue, because now is the part where I go into all of our shows that are coming up in July at theaters within an hour radius of Tolland County. So we have 1776, which is a musical focusing on John Adams' efforts to persuade the Second Continental Congress to vote for independence from Great Britain. That is June 25th to July 26th at the Iverton Playhouse in Essex. We have The Secret Garden, which is a musical based on the book, where an orphan, spoiled girl is sent to live at her uncle's secluded Yorkshire estate. And she discovers a locked, neglected garden and helps both her sickly cousin and her grieving uncle. And that one is at the Chestnut Street Playhouse from July 9th through 26th, and that's in Norwich. We have Anastasia, which is the musical based on the 1997 film, the animated movie. Set against the backdrop of the Russian Revolution, we have a young woman named Anya who pairs with two conmen to prove her identity as the lost Grand Duchess. That is July 11th through July 26th with Landmark Community Theater at the Thomaston Opera House. We have Robot Nature, where a shipwrecked robot named Roz washes ashore and learns to survive in the wilderness by adapting to her surroundings and befriending local animals. That is July 16th to the 26th with the Unity House Players in Springfield, Massachusetts. We have Into the Woods, the Stephen Sondheim musical that intertwines classic Brothers Grimm fairy tales and follows a baker and his wife as they journey into the woods to reverse a witch's curse on their family. That is July 17th through July 26th with the Theater Guild of Simsbury in Simsbury. We have SpongeBob the Musical. This is apparently the year for SpongeBob because there are 3 opportunities in 3 theaters doing this. So this is July 17th to August 2nd with the Center Stage Theater in Shelton. Or you could see it July 17th through the 26th with the Ellington Community Theater in Ellington. Or you could see it July 31st through August 2nd with the East Hartford Summer Youth Festival. So lots of opportunities for SpongeBob. We have Guys and Dolls, which is the musical set in 1950s New York City, following gambler Sky Masterson as he bets he can boo straight-laced Sarah Brown and his friend Nathan Detroit, struggling to evade the law while he avoids marrying his long-suffering fiancée Adelaide. And that is July 23rd through the 26th in West Hartford with the West Hartford Summer Arts Festival. The Drowsy Chaperone, that is a theater fan's favorite 1920s musical, comes to life in his living room, and it's a parody of Jazz Age numbers. That is July 24th through August 2nd in Willimantic with the Wyndham Theater Guild. The Great American Trailer Park musical is a comedic high-energy show centered on a love triangle between a toll booth collector, his agoraphobic wife, and a new mysterious stripper neighbor. That is July 31st through August 16th with Castle Craig in Meriden. Then we have 12 Angry Jurors. So that is about a single dissenting juror in a murder trial attempts to convince the others that the case against a young defendant is not as open and shut as it appears. That is July 31st to August 16th in Manchester with the Little Theatre of Manchester. And of course, do not forget to see What About Watson, which is playing at beautiful Gillette Castle State Park from June 6th to July 12th, and that is on Saturdays and Sundays. So thank you all for tuning in.
I don't think that we mentioned that What About Watson is free. Free to the...
Free. And offered multiple times through the day.
Yes, 1 o'clock and 2:30 every Saturday and Sunday for 6 weekends. Yeah.
So lots of opportunity. So again, thank you for joining us, and please tune in next month where I will highlight another theater and encourage you all to continue to support our local arts here in Connecticut. Thank you.
Yay!